Okay, skipped a few steps with you. One of the things that I did was install my heads. There's a million videos on how to do it. 3 steps to 80. Put the rockers on. The only reason I put the rockers on was because I needed to measure them. Got this wonderful tool. You can get it at Jegs or Summit or anywhere else. But it's for measuring your push rod lengths. Put this in to measure out my lengths. It's a real good idea to do this because these are 23-degree heads, so things are different. This showed me that they are longer than stock by about 0.050. So you do have to order them. Otherwise, when you put your rockers on, this sucker sits down so far that a factory one will have the rocker tilted backwards a little bit. So you want to make sure that you get them in right, and that way you don't have to mess with it later, because if you don't get them in right, you will be messing with it later. When you're putting this together, lots and lots of assembly lube. Same up here as it is on the rest of the engine, just to make sure that you don't run into issues with oiling. I am going to prime the engine beforehand, and that'll bring all the oil up, but while you're adjusting everything, it's good to have that assembly lube in it. It is kind of interesting because back in the day when I didn't know any better, when we would put together engines, we would run them at about 1500 RPMs for 20 minutes, but that was really all we ever did, and I never understood why. Now I know, because it splashes a little bit more oil up on the cam lobes and makes sure everything's all hunky-dory. But definitely a interesting build so far. I had to special order my push rods. You can buy them in that size, so they're readily available. But yeah, all you have to do is measure out, make sure everything's okay, make sure your lifters, I got my lifters in, got my cam in, everything's in the way it should be. Today I'm going to be assembling the valve train and putting it all together, setting the lash on them and everything, and then kind of going from there. But I wanted to bring you in and give you kind of an update on what's going on with the engine. If I run into anything else weird, I will definitely fire the video back up again so that we can go through what's been done. I haven't adjusted the guide plates yet. I'll do that as part of the valve assembly. You want to make sure these little plates that are here, I've got them loose right now, as you can see, because she's got studs, but I didn't want to tighten them until I get everything lined up perfectly. That's when you adjust your guides so that they're right on the money. But that's kind of an update on where we're at. Heads are on, torque down, cam is in, done. Got to put the crank on. I had to, you got to be so careful. I had the pan on it and everything. And then as I was putting on the valve covers, I didn't have anything over the valley here. And I dropped the tip from my Allen wrench or Allen screwdriver down through one of those teeny tiny little lifter holes, and down it went. So I had to pull the pan back off again. So word of warning, until you have this thing completely covered up, leave your bottom end or your oil pan off. Dropped your oil pan, did this with the motor a couple times in the stand, and it fell right out the bottom. So it wasn't that big of a deal. I do have the rubber gasket oil pan, the full gasket, so it's definitely okay to pull it off and put it back on again. But just a word of warning, watch everything you do. Don't use any tools that will allow anything to fall. If you do, just take some rags and lay them down in here. Because I was working on both, I didn't do that, but if you don't have the manifold on it, because like between everything I do, I put the manifold on it so nothing falls on it, and I've got everything taped off in the manifold, of course. But put some rags down here while you're working in this area, and then you don't have to worry about if something falls in. So just a word of advice on that one, and almost every engine builder will probably tell you the same thing. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with everything. Have to put in the oil sending unit once that's all done, because that's still bare. But yeah, it kind of gives you an update on everything. Everything's all torqued down. The head studs are torqued, the main studs are torqued. I am going to come back later and I am going to recheck all the head studs after I warm the car up and run her for a while and change the oil. I'm going to drop the filter, check the filter, pull the valve covers off, check my lash on everything, and make sure that everything's hunky-dory. But that just kind of gives you a good update on what's going on. Also, for those out there doing YouTube, get one of these mics. I just was looking at some of the videos yesterday, and you can actually hear people speak. A lot of the videos that are out there, the microphone is on the camera, so everybody's talking and you hear it from a distance. So my word of advice out there to YouTubers and everybody else is get yourself a microphone. But that's kind of an update of where we're at. I'll film a little bit here while I put in all my push rods and everything, and we'll kind of go from there. Alrighty, toss that back over there. Got all my nice neat push rods, my lube. Where's my lube at? There it is. Your push rods, a little lube on both ends can't hurt. Just to make sure. Down into your guide, put a little more in there, just to be safe. I've got another one there. Want to make sure that's good. Lube the top. Lube the top of your valves so that everything's ready. And you want to assemble it, and you don't have to worry about doing dry stuff. Down the valley, put on the push rod. And you could do it as you're putting them down too. It doesn't make any difference. Well, these are chrome moly push rods. They're all one piece. I didn't want to mess around with steel. You know, like I said, I'm not really racing this engine or anything. It will have a little bit of power, thank goodness. Nothing major. I do plan on adding a turbo setup later. Maybe a blower, I don't know yet. I haven't decided. But probably turbo. Notice I'm spilling it all in the valley. That's okay. I can always wipe it off later. You'll notice that a lot of the lifters have the top end of it, or the bottom end, I don't remember which one, has a little part on it that makes the little cups. These are solid formed that way, so you don't have to worry about issues down the road. Put the load in that lifter and that lifter. Like I said, I plan on priming it. My stuff is on the way, but just to be safe. Make sure my flat side's up. There she is. See how she sits? You can't really see it from that angle, but she sits flat now. When I put in a factory one, that sucker was down big time. So you gotta be careful of that. I am going to put some assembly lube in the trunnions. Make sure that everything's hunky-dory there. Because you want to make sure this sucker's lubricated to its life expectancy, you know. Otherwise you'll be running the engine dry and that won't be good. Backwards. There we go. Like I said, these are still loose. Putting them on, and as I put them on, I'm going to put them where they're supposed to be, or you know, I'm going to line them up, and then I'm going to crank down, you know, pull the rockers off and crank down the bolt. Just want to get these all on for right now. That way, when I catch them from the sides, I'm right on the money. If you want these suckers lined up, the tolerance between the push rod and the guide plate is real narrow. So always. And then when I pull them apart, put them back together again. Where did that one go? Pull them apart, put them back together again. I'll move the rockers too. I put a little bit on the valve, and I put a little bit on the push rod. That way we've got plenty of coverage on everything. Take your time on this stuff. That's the real big thing. You know, it's like painting a car, kind of, you know, anything to do with a car, anything to do with anything. You can't hurry the process. You have to do all the steps. For an example is I put everything together on the front cover and all that stuff and forgot to put the timing pointer on. I come back later, I'm like, oh, yeah, that might help. Check my damper, made sure that was all hunky-dory. These are Proform, I believe it's Proform, or Speedmaster. This is all a Speedmaster kit from Amazon. People will give you grief about it. You need to do some work on these heads, as I have in one of my videos, and get these ports nice and clean, get the flash marks out. If it's a street engine and you're not going to beat it to death, this is a good set of heads, and I'll know later on, and if they go bad, I will post a video about it. But so far, everything has fit well, with no issues whatsoever. These heads do have both patterns for the later LT1 and the old school 350, or the old school small block, I should say. But yeah, everything's here, so definitely makes it an easy install for whichever engine you're using. So anyhow, what I'm going to do now is just check where I'm at with my guide plates, line them up, reach in there with my little screwdriver, and they're right on the money, and tighten them down. Yeah, these two are right on the money, so. But pushrod wanted to stick to it. That's a good sign that the assembly lube is good. Let's see. Shoots that loose. Should have a little tighter. Double check my rockers. Make sure they're lined up. Pushes up. nice and lubed up. We'll do the first one, so gotta get that done too. Two this over here. Pushrod brings them out. What you want to do is make sure that your roller is dead center on that. I measured it when I did the measurements on the push rods. I made sure that the roller was centered on each valve. You definitely want to make sure, and then same thing when you tighten down your guide plates and everything. Make sure that you're straight this way, and that way you know you're straight this way and straight this way, and you're good to go. So for now, I'm going to cut off the video, knock the rest of these out. And then we'll be good to go. I can start lashing it here in a little bit. But I want to get it all assembled right and all the plates torqued down. And you guys seen it once, you don't need to see it 50 times. So with that, I'll cut you off.